AITA for bringing my grandparents into my parents' home and allowing them to disrespect my parents, but especially my mom? There's a lot to this. I'll try to give a timeline. In 2022 I, 20M, went searching for my birth certificate. When looking for that I came across papers that showed I had been adopted by my mom when I was a baby at roughly 9 months old. I found letters from a lawyer outlining how grandparents' rights worked in a different state to where we lived. I didn't bring this up to my parents. I was angry though, and the rest of that year until I moved out was extremely difficult. In 2023 I took a DNA test and connected with maternal relatives. It started with a cousin, but she was able to connect me to both maternal grandparents and 6 maternal aunts and uncles. I learned that my real mom had died when I was an infant. That she and my dad had a brief relationship and he left her and got back with his ex-mom, and that during mom's pregnancy they rushed to get married, told her they wanted to raise me themselves and harassed her. But the labor was complicated and my real mom died 2 days after I was born. Her family had temporary custody of me, but my dad sued and proved paternity and got custody of me. My parents then denied my grandparents any access and moved away when I was less than a year old and after the adoption had taken place. There was no right to grandparents' visits in the state at the time, but apparently some states had a law that once adopted, even in a step-parent adoption, the bio parent's family lost rights to access. So my parents moved to one of those states with me to prevent any access. Later that same year I confronted my parents with what I had learned. They asked me how I found out about the adoption and asked me why I had gone to my maternal family before them. I told them they were liars and I didn't trust them to tell me the truth. My mom told me she hadn't wanted to lose me, or for me to see her as less than my mom. She said she loved me and only ever wanted me to be hers. She told me she had 0 regrets about what they did and she wanted me to see that it was all born from love. My dad told me it was a betrayal to them that I went to my maternal family. He said they raised me without contact with them and I should respect them as parents to let them make that full decision for our family. He said my real mom was a mistake he made and she never could have provided me with what I needed. He would never clarify more. But he felt like he and mom were better. For the rest of 2023 and most of 2024 I went no contact with my parents and they tried to reach me. But they were standing by their whole no regrets and we love you and you should love and respect us thing. They also sent messages telling me to end all contact with my maternal family. I started using their first names when talking or addressing them directly instead of mom and dad for them at this point. Late 2024 I started talking to them a little more and I was open with my maternal family about this. My grandparents wanted the chance to confront them, to make them know how awful they were. My maternal family despise my parents and consider them the worst of the worst. But they were the most pissed at my mom because of 3 letters she sent around the time she adopted me and before they moved. Those letters said my mom was a stupid little child who thought she could make a family with her husband's baby and that it was foolish. She called her a glorified surrogate and she gloated about the fact my real mom's death meant mom could raise me as her own and I'd never figure out the truth. The letters were cruel, they were taunting my maternal family and they showed her and my dad to be the bullies my maternal family said they were. And for context, my mom was 22 when I was born. My dad was 30 and mom was 29. For the first month of 2025 I let myself spend more time with my parents and pushed them for better answers. I challenged them a ton about the choices they made. They expressed 0 regrets about what they did and expected me to agree it was the best thing. So in February, last month, I agreed to stay with them for a weekend and I brought my grandparents with me. My parents were pissed and hurt when they turned up and my grandparents only stayed long enough to get everything they wanted off their chest. They said my dad was a manipulative brat who used my mom and then dumped her and tried to bully her into giving me up. They said he was sick for denying me my mom before she was even dead. They told him he might have believed he won back then, but their relationship with me proved he'd failed. Then they told mom that she wasn't a real mother. They poked fun at the fact she never had kids of her own, that she was discarded, and they said to her that in the end, the surrogate won out even from her grave. They told her she was a disgusted pile of human feces, what they actually called her too, lol, and they hoped she felt every ounce of pain they did when she wrote them those letters. Then they gave her the copies they made of the letters and told her to basically go fug herself. I left with my grandparents, so I didn't actually stay the weekend, and my parents kept trying to contact me. I ignored calls and messages from them and I spent a week writing up an email for the 2 of them. I sent it and then blocked their numbers and removed my Facebook profile, which they set up when I was a young kid, so they couldn't contact me outside of email. Ever since I get about 1 email a week from one of them stating how much I hurt them and how betrayed they feel after all the years they raised and loved me and how I never even gave them a chance. I feel like I did. I pushed for them to be honest with me and remorseful, but they weren't. But even though I don't feel bad for cutting them off, I knew what my grandparents wanted to see them for and I brought them to the house even though I don't live there anymore. So that's why I'm here, because I might be TA for helping set that up. AITA?